We're now going to have a look at another functional group, and these are called the haloalkanes. Now in some textbooks or online you might see these called the haloalkanes, but it just means the same thing. So these haloalkanes are essentially where we've got a halogen attached in a carbon compound. So the functional group for haloalkanes is where we have any carbon chain, which we just call R, and in that we have bonded a halogen, and I'm going to use an X for any halogen. By halogen I mean any group 7 element, so fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. So let's now have a look at how we name them. So when we have any sort of group attached, so when we had alkyl groups, it'd be methyl, ethyl, and so on, there is a prefix for halogens as well. So if we have a fluorine in the chain, that prefix becomes fluoro. If we have chlorine in the chain, that becomes chloro. If we have bromine, that becomes bromo. And if we have iodine, that becomes iodo. Okay, so we need to know these prefixes if we have a halogen anywhere in the chain. So let's have a look at some examples and how we can name these haloalkanes. So a simple one to start off with. So it starts off in the same way. We find the longest carbon chain. So in this case, we've got 2 carbons. So the longest carbon chain is ethane. And over here, we have a halogen attached there. Now, usually we number it. So we would essentially start numbering from here, 1, 2. So this is technically called 1-chloroethane. But hopefully you can see no matter where it is in this compound, even if it's attached to that one, it will still be 1-chloroethane. So for this one, because we've only got 2 carbons, we can just call this one chloroethane. Right, next one that we'll look at, we'll go for a longer carbon chain. So in this one, the longest carbon chain is propane. So it's going to end in propane. And now, because we can have the bromine anywhere over here, we should number our carbon. So I'm going to start numbering from here. Again, aim for the halogen to be on the smallest number carbon. In this case, it doesn't matter because it's always going to be on carbon 2. So this one here is called 2-bromopropane. Okay, if that was on that carbon or this carbon, it would then be 1-bromopropane. Okay, let's now have a look if we have more than one halogen in the chain. So in this one, our longest carbon chain is 4. So this is going to end in butane. We're going to start numbering from here because we want both of these halogens to be on the smallest number carbon. Like so. And then in terms of deciding which one goes first, because we've got an iodo group here and a bromo group. Now, whenever we're naming these, in terms of what comes first in the name, it should always be the one that is first in the alphabet. So it's going to be alphabetically. So if we've got iodo and we've got bromo, out of those two, bromo is first. So that means I'm going to start off with the bromo part. So it's going to be 2-bromo. And then we do the iodo. So it's going to be 1-iodo, butane, like so. Okay. Let's have a look at another one. So over here, the longest carbon chain is the one going across, so that's 5. I'm just going to number it, so that means the fluoro group and the methyl group are on the smallest number of carbons. So this is going to end in pentane. In terms of groups, we've got a fluoro and we've got a methyl. So again, alphabetically, we choose which one's first. So fluoro is going to be first. So in our name, it's going to be 2 fluoro, 3 methyl pentane. Okay. Right, next one, let's start having a look at it in skeletal form. Like so. Okay, so remember, whenever we're doing it in skeletal form, when we have, so there's a carbon here, when we have a line coming off and then another atom, so we've got a chlorine here, there's now no carbon here. So in terms of the number of carbons, or the longest carbon chain, starts from here, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I want to number that in, so making sure that everything's on the smallest number of carbon that it can be. So it's going to end in hexane. We've now got a chloro, bromo, and an ethyl group. Okay, so out of those, our bromo is first alphabetically. So it's going to be 2 bromo, and then out of chloro and ethyl, chloro's next. So 1 chloro, and then 3 ethyl. So I'm going to struggle to fit this in. So 3 ethyl hexane, like so. Okay, just one more example to do. Okay, so again, identify the longest carbon chain. So that's the one going across here. First carbon is this one, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are only 5 carbons in this entire chain. Okay, so it's going to end in pentane. We've now got 2 bromo groups and 1 chloro group. Okay, so the bromo is going to be dibromo because we've got 2 of them. And it's going to be 1, 2, because one's on 1 and one's on 2. So it's going to be 1, 2. I'm not listing them in the name, so I just want to write them out first. And then we've got a 2 chloro. Okay, so we've now got to decide which one comes first. So remember what I said, it's got to be alphabetically, but when it comes to the alphabetical part, you don't use the di part, it always starts from the bromo. Okay, the di part, the D, is not what we're looking for, it's the B in bromo. So out of B and C, which one's first? So it's bromo. So it starts off with 1, 2, dibromo. Sorry, that should have been a comma. And then it's 2 chloro.